Why did I take down the Cryptic? So I just felt like I didn't need it anymore because I used the Cryptic sump as a holding pen for some very, very bad live rock that I wanted. Well, I had the Haitian live rock, like 100 pounds of the stuff that was in that Cryptic sump. So I had some really the Carib Sea life rock in one of my display tanks that was just causing a lot of issues. So I got rid of that, and I swapped the Haitian live rock from the Cryptic sump into the display tank and put the Carib Sea life rock into the Cryptic sump. I didn't want to like pull the Cryptic sump right away, so I kept it in there for a little while, and then eventually I just tossed the Carib Sea life rock, and it's sitting in my backyard. And I didn't need the Cryptic sump anymore, and things have been just fine.
Did you see any results of like nutrient impact when you had it running?
You know, I guess there's a lot of different opinions about the effectiveness of a Cryptic sump in terms of whether or not, I think there's a lot of beneficial stuff in a Cryptic sump. You got the sponges and you got some feather dusters, right? You got a whole bunch of other things. But then, I think there's other opinions that
Where's he at?
it potentially could be competing, with the, for food for corals. Because there's bacteria, in the Cryptic sump. So is that a good thing? I don't know.
What do you think?
Feed more.
Feed more.
What's that mean, Rich?
If your tank is set up forever, it becomes Cryptic anyway, right? So if you look under my rocks, it's just sponges north to south, or east to west. I'm sorry, and I just feed the crap out of the tank. So, but I don't really care that much about the numbers anyway. The nutrients,
back in the day, everybody had like a shit ton of live rock, right? I mean, everybody, I think the rule of thumb was 2 pounds per gallon or something like that, and so that's changed.
2 to 5.
Yeah, it was even higher.
Right. And
so
we used to throw a ton in the sump as well because the more is better.
Right. So
yeah, that's a really good point.
So now it's a lot less, right? What was it, like a pound a gallon or something? No, not even.
I don't know.
A lot of people are doing the NSA stuff. So
what is that? You got to talk in
the negative aquascape or NAS or negative space aquascape NSA.
Yeah, I think that's great. You just got to put the biological somewhere else.
Yeah,
like in the sun.
So yeah, maybe like a little Cryptic sump helps in that regard.
What do you think?
My systems are live rock in the sump, and it's just a bunch of grading up in the main tanks. It's there's a lot of ways to do it, and believe me, in the back end of my sumps, it gets pretty damn cryptic. I mean, there's the turkey sponges that are growing down there. I think I eradicated the majority of it. But hopefully, I don't have to let it grow back.
I guess the question is it beneficial to add a Cryptic sump to an established system? Are you really helping it, or is it essentially causing competition among other things in the system?
I don't think it hurts. I mean, personally, I think it's not a bad idea at all because you get sponges growing. I mean, look what Steve Tyree did. He had Cryptic sumps, and he had some pretty amazing corals over the decades.
Yeah, all I could speak from is my own experience, and so when I added it, I think it didn't hurt anything. Did it help anything? I don't know, but it was a good thing for me to have because it allowed me to kind of like play around with my display rock in terms of swapping them between the Cryptic sump and vice versa. But since I got rid of it, I haven't really noticed any negative side effects.
Salem, you want to chime in on Cryptic sumps, Mr. Biome?
Yeah, I had one on my last system. I plumbed it kind of similar to Keith, where it was a dedicated one, and it certainly grew sponges and feather dusters and stuff. I'll probably throw one on a tank because I think it's kind of in that area. Do you need one? You don't need one, but for me, I feel like it would be a
oh God,
something to have. Yeah, what was that? Is that mine or no?
What's going on here is we're doing one of the High Tide Aquatics Cocktail and Coral Talk events. So we got about 15, 20 people in front of us here, all drinking, barbecuing, having a good reefing time.
Cool.
So want to thank my sponsors, Bay Area Reefers, and thanks Rich for coming, and thanks Keith and Salem and Chris and you guys for being on. And so we're gonna have some good audience engagement, some people asking questions, and let's hear what everybody has to say about what people are asking. We have Daniel here who apparently has carob seed live rock in his tank and wants you to expand, Keith, on why.
Well, it's like I didn't like it. I didn't like it because it's basically cement. It's not porous at all, and I just had one type of algae after another. I was getting a lot of like this green cyano on it. Maybe there was some red cyano. So I think the porosity is a big thing, and so that's a thing that I wasn't totally thrilled about with it. I mean, the great thing is it's got great shapes, right, and allows you to put together some really cool aquascapes. And I didn't really. I initially glued it together with some of that fast dry and epoxy, but then I broke it apart and rearranged it, and I just placed it on top of one another in certain angles, and it just held together really well. So I mean, that's definitely the big plus with it. I think is that it allows you to make some really cool aquascapes, and it's like a modular thing where you can buy. I guess I had a lot of arches, but you could also buy other types of pieces. In the long run, I think I had it in my tank for a couple of years, and it just, me personally, I didn't like it. And I think the porosity was a big issue.
The cement factor, the giant Philippines reef system that you used to take care of at the academy, that was built out of cement, right?
The whole tank was built out of cement.
Right.
Yeah, the tank was built out of cement, and we couldn't actually find what mix they used, so we couldn't really define what was in the cement. So one of the things that may have been just problematic with that tank for 10 or 15 years was whatever was leaching out of the cement itself. So yeah, I mean, we when we started doing artificial live rock, all of the recipes called for doing things to make them porous, and so I wonder if that's just been thrown out for expediency and shaving the cost to make it. But yeah, it's always interesting to me the things that, and you guys will know this, the stuff we knew, and that seems to get forgotten as the wheel rolls round.
I always thought taking and putting, if you're going to mix and make like cement rock, why wouldn't you want to put like rock salt in it? So then you can soak it and dissolve all that rock salt out, and then you have some porosity that way. I don't know if that would work or not. It was a theory that I had, and I don't know if anybody really ever tried it, but it makes sense to me.
Yeah, people put all kinds of stuff. They did put salt in it. They put, I think they put vermiculite in it because that would be porous as well. They cast it with ice so it would have voids. So I'm sure those threads are still around. But then some people started making it. So it was like, oh, you're making decent artificial rock. So I don't care about making it myself anymore. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to repeat myself. You hold the mic. There's other people.
Patrick, you got anything? You already asked the cryptic sump. John, how about you, John?
Kind of related to cryptic sumps. Right now, my Refugium. So I have a Refugium with Chaetomorpha, or however you say it, and I'm not really that worried about nutrient export. That's not really why I have it. I have it more because of like biodiversity or whatever. But it gets overgrown with nuisance algae. It's kind of like an extra chore. So I'm like, now I have a tank on top and a tank on bottom, which need a bunch of extra work to make them functioning correctly to get rid of the algae or whatever. So how useful do you guys think, in your experience, having a Refugium with live algae that's lit, and so it gets nuisance algae as well, skimmer and all the other chambers, plus where you are, versus just letting it go dark and basically doing cryptic sump, having some bio blocks or whatever in there instead.
So John's asking, he has a Refugium set up that's just has Chaetomorpha, and it's getting a lot of problematic algae. being that it's lit, you know, you also have the problematic algae growing in there, which takes more work to have it running correctly for nutrient export. And is it worth it to have a refugium like that in that manner, or is it better just to go dark and go cryptic?
Can you ask John what is you want the refugium to do?
And John, yeah, what do you want the refugium to do? What are you using it for?
Yeah, so I'm not doing it mostly for nutrient export. I'm mostly interested in a place for pods and stuff to grow,
and adding more
for
biodiversity,
and for some more filtration for bacteria to grow. I have rock in there as well, but I could put in.
Yeah, so he's just looking for more biodiversity and pods and all that good stuff. So
Does he have a minimal aquascape in the display?
No, I got plenty of live rock.
Plenty of live rock.
But I'm thinking about actually rebooting the tank also, and that's part of my thought process. Is maybe I can make the sump do more of the bacterial work.
Yeah, he's thinking about doing a reboot on his tank and going a little bit more negative space. So he's thinking about trying to go that route to maybe up the bioload and biodiversity in a cryptic sump.
I mean, I haven't had great experience with Cato. You know, I had Cato reactor and crashed on me a lot. I tried a Refugium with Cato, and you know, eventually it would crash. You know, then I did the Clearwater algae scrubber on one of my systems, and you know, it certainly worked in terms of pulling out nutrients. I mean, that's what those things do. But pretty much, I don't use any macroalgae anymore. I just lean on my corals to do the nutrient export.
What species of algae that are problematic are growing? There's like hair algae, bryopsis. What are you looking at? What problem are you trying to solve?
Yeah, so the main problems, I actually don't have an ID on it, but there's like this slimy green algae that I'm not sure what it is. It's not cyano, it's not hair algae, it's some kind of slime algae.
Like a real slimy algae, not cyano, not green hair algae, but like a green slimy, gross.
That sounds like green cyano.
Is it growing in the tank or is it growing in the refugium? I mean, if it's growing in the tank and the refugium, then it's a problem I see. But if it's only growing in the refugium, then it's doing its job, if you ask me, because it's keeping it out of your main system. I mean, that's the biggest thing that I noticed with, you know, algae scrubbers or a refugium. I never really got anything out of a refugium that was beneficial other than the pod production. But from my experience and with the, you know, nuisance algae issues that can happen on a scale of farming like the scrubber did a really good job at growing all of that nuisance algae and not allowing it to grow in the main system. So I think it's a win-win for you if it's not growing in your main system and it's growing down your refugium. It's better there than where you can see it on a regular.
Yeah, I do have it growing in my system as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's got it in his system as well.
I say go scrubber and do your cryptic sump thing like you're talking about.
I'm not a fan of refugiums for doing anything that refugiums are said to do. I don't think they do anything for your nutrient export. The amount of pods that are growing there that are actually making it to your tank is, I think, minimal. So if you like a refugium, you should have one because you like those animals in there. But in the same token, put whatever you want in that system and run it that way.
Yeah, like in my case, this tank's been up for a while, and I had that refugium growing great and looking pretty and bringing me joy for like 10 years. Yeah. And now it's not. So I'm thinking about getting rid of it. Because I don't really see a huge downside of getting rid of it.
I think that if you've got green slime stuff everywhere, that speaks to probably like a larger issue as well. I mean, if your thought is getting rid of the refugium might fix that problem, maybe not. If it's refugium good, bad, I think Rich has a good point of if you want it, you want it. If you don't, you don't. But if you're trying to fix the green slime thing, then you might look elsewhere, is my thoughts.
What's his nitrates and phosphates at?
I don't test them religiously, but there's something like about like 5 and 1 or something like that.
One from phosphates?
0.1, sorry.
Oh, 0.1's good. 1's bad.
Did the slime showing up coincide with the tank crash?
Well, the tank didn't crash.
Or the bump in your tank?
No, I think it's like been there for a long time, and I've just been like manually taking it out and buying herbivores, and none of the herbivores want to eat it, and it's like I'm the herbivore, and I don't really want to be the herbivore.
Like Matt Wandell says, be the herbivore.
Yeah. So basically, like it's just an annoyance. The whole thing with the refugium part of it, I don't think it would fix it. It's just it's another thing I have to clean.
Yeah, I'm going to contradict myself. You should absolutely have the refugium, and if it's not painful, if it's not painful to keep, if it's not the most annoying thing you do, if you don't hate it, it's not working.
So here's another thing to ask you: what kind of rock are you using in the system? Is it fake rock or is it real rock? Because if it's fake rock, you could go back to the same.
It's all real
possible.
rock. Yeah.
It's all real rock. Okay.
You should hate your reef tank. Yeah. You hate doing the work on it, and then get more work that you have to do on it, and hate that more.
What's ironic is when it's going well and it's not a lot of work, I find it kind of boring. And then when things aren't going well and I'm doing tons of work, then I find it super annoying.
You're right.
I've always found Cato to be a pain in the ass, but that's me.
Yep. That's why
I've got some growing under the house in the sump, but I never look at it. I mean, once in a while I go down there and I yank a bunch of it out, and sometimes it's got some slime on it, sometimes it doesn't. But it's just going because it is. If I had to do anything to it, I would.
Yeah, and like in my tank, it's not like it's a tank crash or something. Like all my coral's growing fine. It's just that all the surface is not covered with coral, including the back wall and stuff, which is constantly having to clean it. And it's just a chore.
Yeah. I would get rid of anything that feels like a constant chore.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Reefing's supposed to be fun.
Simplify.
This isn't a chore.
It's not constant.
Make life easier. Make it simple.
Thank you guys. I appreciate that.
I have a follow-up. Has anybody ever done any data on, like, it does take nutrients out for sure, like your Cato. But like if I were to just turn that into like a thriving frag tank, does that make sense? Like most of us have like it's like a foot by a foot. You could make a bunch of SBS after Colby there. Does that take more nutrient? Like would that serve a better purpose? Like I was thinking done that.
Xenia Fuge.
There you go.
You want to be a Xenia farmer or a coral farmer?
No, that's a great way to like pull nutrients out, right? I mean, that stuff
if that's what you want to use a Fuge for, you know. I mean,
the more coral.
That's what Don does. He uses pulsing Xenia. I forget what he uses, but
he uses Xenia.
Xenia, right?
The only refugium I have in this store is a display refugium that's full of seahorses and cool corals and stuff.
I think the one thing, if you switch to Xenia, all of a sudden, if you have something like a trace element dosing regime, it's probably going to change pretty significantly. Cato is more iron and stuff, so that would be one thing to look out for if you do that transition. Is you might have some depletion in areas you were good on.
Xenia can also crash, right? So you have to take care of it. If it crashes and you're relying on it to do something, then you've changed everything, and so Xenia feels, I mean, it works. It will suck up nutrients, and then you got to throw away Xenia, which is fine. But it's always felt like it was a little too temperamental for me to want to do it. It works, but what does that even mean? You know, you don't have a Xenia on your tank now, so your tank's doing fine. So what are you doing?
I'm a big fan of Xenia dosing.
Yeah, you want to make it finer.
Me and Salem were talking earlier about because he is doing that water trickle filter experiment as well, and I got kind of like a reverse trickle filter on my new tank that's just full of bioballs with air stones underneath the bioballs, egg crate, and then rock and sponge underneath the egg crate, and it's all blacked out. I have 40 plus fish in there and only a skimmer. And I'm having to dose nitrate and ammonia to keep my nitrates up. I think all because of the bioballs, but you don't need a pH.
1984 called and is laughing.
Yeah. Money back.
It says, "Ha ha! We were doing it that way, and you changed."
Hey, this is new to me. I wasn't born then.
I understand. I understand.
I don't think
So you should call it the Salem method now.
I might patent that. That's a good one. I'll trademark it.
Yeah, totally.
I still have dose ammonia in all the systems right at this point. I was talking to Salem about it, a while ago about putting trickle filters back on because I think that would be a way to combat having to add chemicals to the tank for nitrate production, and it would be produced naturally. I mean, because like you said, we got rid of trickle filters back in like 95, 96.
Yeah.
I don't know
Nitrate was the devil, man.
It was.
That's right. And nitrate. We used to build these giant, 1 or 2 foot around PVC towers with the spinner on the top, and just so it would trickle down through, and with all the fireballs in it, and then nitrate became the devil, and we had to get rid of it, and then phosphate became the devil, and we had to get rid of it, and it's it's the crushing wheel spins.
Well, for me now, I think DOC's the devil, so that's why I like trickle filters now. So I've traded one for another.
Richard, you're talking about back when we used to build a protein skimmer out of a 4-inch piece of PVC pipe and use a luff pump with 4 monster wooden air stones on it and get the nastiest skim ever.
The first skimmer I made was a 4 foot length of 1.5-inch pipe that water drained from the main tank down into this 15-gallon sump, and I just ran 1 air stone down it, and it would just gurgle up, and I would just wipe it down every day.
My best skimmer ever was a 50-inch tall dual Beckett injection skimmer. Countercurrent, I think. That was a monster. That was like the best frickin' skimmer I ever had. That was like 25 years ago or something.
I like
a homemade ETS.
Yeah. And they went out of vogue because the big pumps needed to run them. They'll come back.
That 4-inch skimmer that was made had such slow water flow going through it, but those wooden air stones would give you the nastiest skim you'd ever smell in your life. You can't get that out of the skimmers we have today. I've never smelled anything as nasty as what came out of those homemade wooden air stone skimmers.
We used to throw those air stones into skimmers when like Euroreef and ASM skimmers were new, and we didn't think that the needle wheel was giving enough bubbles, so we would just add more bubbles, and then it would get more dandelion wine, as it were.
You said Euroreef. I still have an old Euroreef box sitting there. I love those things. Whatever happened to Euroreef?
They were great. I think what happened was people started believing that the closed cell acrylic wasn't worth the extra $400.
Yeah, you could throw them across a room.
Yeah.
Run them over with a car and they'd be fine.
Yeah.
You guys got questions for these guys? Need some Schmitty, I'm cameraman in the back. Black. Yeah, he's asking, what do you do with an established tank that has black cloves? I think he's talking about the not sarcothelia or
yes,
sarcothelia, the little tiny clove polyps.
The little
add some of that fenbendazole. That'll get rid of them.
Yeah, I mean, Paletto wrote an article about that. I mean, depending on what you have in your tank, it could, piss off certain corals for a long time. Especially, you can't have softies.
No softies.
You got to pull all those out.
And it stays in the rock forever.
Right.
Yep.
So you can never have softies in a tank without rock.
Because of those reasons, it scares the hell out of me. So I think the alternative is you tell Kenny you want weird stuff, and you've got the guy right now here on this call that can get it. Because when I went to Chris Meckley's, all of his clothes were covered in these orange nudies that I bet would eat it. And he should make a profit by selling them, and then there's biological control. So
and I've got an employee. You met Justin Salem. He loves finding those things. He'll go through the whole soft coral system.
I mean, you could ship him to Kenny and he could try it out. If that works, you don't have to do fin bend, and that's easy thing.
Exactly.
So, kind of a weird thing is I had some Aptasia in one of my display tanks. I put in, and this same display tank had the sarcothelia that was just running rampant. I borrowed Rich's laser, his high-powered laser, like forever. I've had that thing forever, probably like 2 years, because I was battling that stuff nonstop. And then it just ran rapid. And then one day I decided pull a bunch of coral out and try to scrub the rock with wire and all that stuff. And that didn't work. And I ended up putting in a stripey to deal with aptasia. And the stripey started eating it. The stripey started annihilating it. And then he started eating my bubble tips that were in that same tank.
The peppermint shrimp are a great thing
But
for the
he almost
aptasia.
wiped out that population of Sarcothelia, which was pretty awesome. Which I didn't know they do that, so that was pretty
Yeah, they
cool.
started. Stripey started eating all of my Fimbriophilias too, so they're not safe for Fimbriophilias. I would be cautionary if you're going to use them.
I don't know if they're safe for a lot of corals, honestly.
Yeah, they got the reputation for 6 months or so as being the most awesome and safest fish. I had one in my reef for about 3 days. And I went,
No.
I don't trust this motherfucker. Pulled him out. I gave him to Aaron. Aaron has them now to eat aptasia.
I think they're fine with like SPS corals, but you put them in with LPS and softies, and they run rampant.
And they grow so fast.
Cool
You know, in
fish.
Australia, they're pest fish.
And they get big as hell super
Yeah.
quick.
And here they're $200.
The guy right up the road from me breeds the damn thing, so I mean, I can get them if you want some.
Everyone wants them here, man, honestly. So many people. You got stripes? You got stripes?
Give it
They're
time.
tank raised, born up here in Dade City.
Cool. Yeah. I'll talk to you about it.
All right.
Margo. You got any questions, bud? Everyone I put on the spot, they're
It's
like,
got a great shirt, though.
You were talking about the black polyps. I have these little brown tan polyps, little invasive little tiny micro polyps, and I'm just constantly beating them back. And like, if I take a vacation of beating them back, they just like grow over a whole rock, and I have to take the rock out and just like nuke it and put it back, and then it comes back. And I've had it for many years, actually, probably 8 years or so. And is it, besides benzimidazole, is a brown tan one the same as like the black or the green or whatever? Are they all different species with different predators and different approaches?
Yeah, I'm gonna do what Salem was mentioning. I see so doggone many of the nudibranchs that naturally predate on them. I'll start every time we dip our corals, which is usually on a weekly basis. The wild stuff, the wild softies always have these things on them. I'll start stockpiling them for you, Kenny, and send you a whole batch of them every once in a while for you to distribute out to your customers. Just take care of shipping, and it's all you.
yeah, right on.
What are you dipping with, Chris?
I use a multitude of things. I usually use the Anticipate is the main thing I go to, which is
Captivate, so.
Captivate.
Yeah, okay.
It's an awesome dip, but mainly for the softies, I don't go with the expensive dips. I go with I just use Me Coral Dip, which is ME Corals is a little company down south here. Mark Esquenazi started up, and its dip is good. And I also have a 5-gallon jug of Revive on hand at all times. So Revive and Me Coral Dip are my go-tos for quick, easy dips to get rid of stuff on soft corals.
What is the area of polyps?
Well, it started with one polyp, so it started really small, and now it's and then now it's on multiple rocks and multiple surfaces.
I was going to say you could get an epoxy and like Magic Sculpt. Magic Sculpt is really cheap and comes in different colors, and just smother them.
Why don't you give him your laser, Rich?
Yeah, Rich, you should market that thing.
You mean Kenny's laser?
It didn't work. I wasted so many countless hours with that thing.
It works, but it's not.
It is fun though.
It's not a broad wipeout thing.
So with these polyps, everything I've done kills them, but doesn't kill all of them.
Sure.
And then they come back. That's that's always the problem, right? But like literally every single thing I've tried, which has been about 8 things.
Yeah.
So lasers work great. Aptasia X works great. The F-Aptasia works great. Scraping on and off manually if on a flat surface works really easy and fantastic, like on glass. I have that UV thing, the Reef Delete, that works great. Literally everything works. It's just that they just always keep coming back because you can never get all of them. They don't,
Have you tried a Refugium? I think either you nuke it from space and you just keep pulling rocks, or you just do what you're doing. I mean, vermitid snails, and for me, vermitid snails and Mahanos are just
Part of your tank.
a thing. Yeah, dishes are never done.
And then the fenbendazole scares me because apparently it's not safe for invertebrates either. Like all the snails and shrimp and crabs, all those, anything you don't find and pull out, they're all going to die.
Yeah.
And then it's got this leaching effect. So when can you ever put those back in safely?
Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah. Thanks.
I can say a little bit about the fenbendazole. We've been feeding, the fenbendazole flake food for aquating flatworms. It's worked wonders. But it also took care of a lot of the vermitid snails as well in the system. But I had a huge patch of the beautiful fireworks cloves that is now a little itty bitty patch now. I almost lost all the xenia that I couldn't even keep alive for over a decade. And I got a strain that I'm able to keep alive and do well. Luckily, it didn't kill it all, but it came back. But the fenbendazole flake food, actually, I've got multiple people that have used it to target feed those daisy polyps, and it's not putting a large amount of fenbendazole in the system, but the daisies are ingesting it and it's wiping them out completely in the system.
How do you think it's that feeding is impacting the flatworms? How is it getting to them?
My theory is it's the corals are eating the flake food because we're pulverizing it with a mortar and pestle, and it's not working on all species. It's working on the majority, but there's some species that I still see a flatworm, they aren't infested, but they're there. So I think that they're actually ingesting it, and it's like you and me taking a pill, then the parasite bites them and they ingest themselves with the fenbendazole and it wipes them out. It breaks the cycle. We didn't see any acro-eating flatworms on our coral farm it's been a year and a half.
Nice.
Now, I stopped feeding the food when I had the issues with whatever were the issues. And once we got that,
You always have issues.
What's that?
You always have issues.
I know.
Everyone always has issues.
In a matter of a month.
For that fenbendazole flake food, so you think the amount is like a low, small amount all the time? And so it's not affecting snails or shrimp or anything like that?
No, it wasn't affecting any of the snails. I never had mass die-offs of snails in the system.
I've never heard of that. Would impact inverts.
Yeah, the fenben flake doesn't affect the inverts because the amount that actually goes into the system isn't even close to what you would do. Like I know people that have taken and done a full fenbendazole treatment in their entire system to get rid of those daisy polyps and the clove polyps in their tank, and it's wiped out all the clove polyps, but then it's wiped out all their snails and everything else because they put a specific level. I don't even know what the level is because I would never throw fenbendazole in large numbers in large amounts in my system because I just don't. I don't trust the fact that it wouldn't be there for a long time.
Can you quantify how much of that food you're feeding?
We were feeding about in 2,000 gallons of water. We were feeding about. I don't know. I poured it in the palm of my hand. It was just covered the palm of my hand. We'd pulverize it in a mortar and pestle, and we stick it in a massive food mixing container to feed all of our corals.
Okay.
And that was done once a week. And it really, I noticed a huge difference. Now, in the beginning, I was doing small amounts, not even close to that, maybe equivalent to that over a period of a week's time, but just pinches of it in a small thing of water and using a small pipetter and was targeting the corals that I knew were infested with the flatworms. And when we noticed that they were no longer an issue on those corals, but they were still sporadic here and there, that's when we started just feeding the entire system. The fenbendazole flake once a week in very small amounts. But you're talking about 2,000 gallons of water and how much, maybe a gram of flake food was all we were using once a week. So how much fenbendazole was in that, I don't know.
No, I was meaning how much of the food. So that's a palm full to 2,000 gallons.
About that big around and about that deep.
I got it.
So
It sounds like a lot.
It was just what we, it was what we ended up doing.
No,
And
I
it worked really
got you. The pipetting, the localized use of it sounds kind of interesting.
well. The guys that did it for their tanks that had the daisies infesting their tanks, the one guy had a softy tank, and I told him, I said, don't do it. You're going to kill all your softies. Well, he had Palau for like 25 years. He wiped it out. I was like, I told you were going to kill that stuff. I'm like, I can't believe you killed the Palau and he's like, well, I got it in 2 other tanks. I'm like, but your colony was like this big, and you killed the whole thing. The soft corals that are in the system, if you're not shutting off all your water flow and targeting these daisies and actually watching them close up by eating the food, it's going to just go everywhere, and anything that's going to grab that particulate out of the water is going to get it's going to have bendazole ingested into it. So it can be very problematic.
And
This is one of the really. Oh, go ahead, Tilly.
The one thing that worries me about using fenbendazole, even for the flatworms, is like with the new organic MS test that Oceamo has, so like the LCMS stuff, you can look at antibiotics, pesticides, herbicides, everything in the system. So people, for instance, that use like the KFC treatment in tanks, so amoxicillin, Cipro, 6 months, 8 months ago, still have residual, really low amounts of those in a tank. So I think that you can probably ride a fine line for a super long time to where you have this microdose or even the localized treatment. But if it is building up, what happens when it builds up? Like well, one day you feed it, and that is the straw that breaks the camel's back, and then everything's new.
Yeah, how many days in a row do you have to, or how many weeks in a row do you have to use it? You know,
Right. I
do we
think
have
like
any?
the treatment protocol has to be established of this is how many days, and then you just run so much catalytic carbon or do like an ozone treatment or something to attempt to pull it out, because it does get into the rocks and everything else. So the leaching does scare me because it's just such a nasty kind of chemical.
The other thing is the collateral damage. That's what scares me in terms of I got like a shit ton of like filter feeders, you know, in my system, tube worms, feather dusters, and all that stuff, and they're gone, right? I mean, you use Fenben, that stuff's gone, and you know, everything in a reef tank's got to roll. So you know, what happens when that kind of upsets that apple cart and impacts
it? Doesn't kill turkey sponge, I can tell you that.
No?
Yeah, I mean that's why I used to get really nervous when people would talk about experimental treatments like this, because people go off and then do them and kill a bunch of stuff, and now I've kind of decided that's not my problem. You know, if somebody who is not paying attention goes, I'm just going to dump this in, well, that's, you know, I can't stop you from doing that. So I'm much less grumpy at talking about stuff on the edge that, you know, experienced people know how to play with and know what they're looking for and know when to pull back when something looks off, or even decide not to do it or do it in a little tank and check it. Somehow that had a transition in my head to something I want to talk to Salem about, was about the utility of scientific papers in the hobby. Because I think it's the same thing. People see something in a paper and then a bunch of people go, that's what we should do. And then that goes on for 6 or 8 months, and then it falls out of favor because I think people don't really understand what was said in the paper.
Yeah, I mean, I think that context, this is something, you know, we've kind of talked about before, and it's something I've thought a lot about. So I'll use the urea dosing thing as an example, because I think it's a decent one. So, you know, when writing that, I conducted what I felt was a fairly extensive literature review of here's coral biology, here's how, you know, some controlled experiments and a couple of different things. And then I, you know, said, okay, here's the baseline of what science says. Our tanks are very different. This is a completely different ecosystem. If you are going to try this, here is a very conservative dosing of doing it, and here's how you would monitor it. So I think that when applying just raw science to the industry, there needs to be a very slow on-ramping with a lot of it, and I think that people should be careful and also be aware that it is an experiment and is on that bleeding edge. And I think that a really good analogy or, you know, phrase I've heard is the bleeding edge is never perfect. And I think that, you know, it depends on the method, right? So I think what Chris is talking about is another, I mean, it's kind of a similar method of you're going to have a few kind of pioneers tinker with things, and hopefully they can come back with something better. And there can be a community, kind of a decentralized peer review, if you will, of developing things. But I think that I would be cautious of anyone who reads something in a paper and then comes to you and says, this is it. This is it. So some amount of restraint, I think, is required there, and context.
Yeah, and then the million monkeys get a hold of it, right? Like the concoction, right? The concoctions seem to make some sense to some people, and then it seemed to make more sense to some other people that I was confused that it made sense to them about. And then a whole lot of people used it, and now kind of nobody used it. I mean, there's a couple people out there who still swear by it, but the million monkeys got it and kind of went,
It's a public review process. I think that is peer review in a way, and I think because of the internet that exists, that allows for really good communication. And I think that things like what you guys are doing is really good because we can talk about these things. So I think I think conversation is needed, and I think that having a lot of different people look at the same papers, because I might have misinterpreted all of those papers and I could be wrong, but if everyone had blind trust in what I said, they could have dosed they could have dosed peanut butter, right, in their tanks.
Right.
Fucking joke.
Right.
So,
yeah, but like I said, I used to be so worried for people. I guess I thought, if only we could tell people, we could save them so much trouble, and you can't. People are going to people, right?
Yeah, so I guess to answer your question in short, I think that science is really great and papers are really great to pull from, but you have to have some context and a careful application, because obviously there's really hardly any papers about an actual ex situ or aquarium environment. They are all about an actual reef, and it's very, very different than the monstrosities we're creating with Indonesian, Australian, Solomon Islands, Caribbean organisms all in a glass box that doesn't have the right bacteria, or anything else. So
and if you read the papers, they all say, now this is what we think we learned from this very specific experiment that we did. It may not apply anywhere else, and more work needs to be done.
And we killed half the corals, so it might be irrelevant.
Right. And hobbyists go, phosphate's bad. It makes corals brittle.
Yeah, so I think that I think scientific communication and then conversation and development, it's all kind of pipeline, so to speak. But I think without a even proper structure for it, that the hobby's done a pretty good job at gut checking those things. So.
Yeah, it just kind of lumbers. It lumbers, and we see things. Concoction is gone. Zeovit's pretty much gone. All these things kind of just come through and stay for a while, and then people go, let's do trickle filters again.
Yeah.
Which is great. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that also because it is an industry that has the kind of market dynamics and competition that help it too. So if anything, I mean, that's kind of why the community science thing excites me. It's an accelerated testing grounds for ideas, I think. There's profit incentive to make them good and make them work. So
and it's like the bacteria dosing is now like the Mark Weiss products of the 2025. And we've got people doing tests on that and going, it doesn't seem to be those words you write on the bottle. I don't think they mean what you think they mean, which is a terrible Princess Bride reference that didn't work at all. But I think it's really cool that we can kind of check some of it now easier than we could before. The Mark Weiss product ended up to being, apple juice and blood meal. It was,
I liked it.
We'll go back to it.
Yeah.
Purple up.
Hey, I still like Purple Up. I just can't afford to use it. Purple Up was the bomb back in the day.
Yeah, man, you thought it was the bomb. Like, I mean, coral lines were going to grow, but it just made you think it was growing faster or something.
I guess I did enough water changes; it didn't have any issues.
Yeah.
But the bacteria thing, the data that I've gotten from the bacteria over now a year and a half is very promising. And it's a shame that the Reef Builders article doesn't have that graph on there anymore, talking and showing the data that was gotten. And you could clearly see what was happening with the Rhodopseudomonas palustris dosing. From before I was dosing Rhodopseudomonas palustris to when I started, and I was dosing lanthanum sometimes 2-3 times a week, to dosing it every 3 to 4 weeks, to now dosing it every 6 weeks, to get the phosphates down and keep them below 1. The Rhodopseudomonas palustris is the only thing that's allowed me to do that, and it's kept me from adding lanthanum, and I swear by it. So people can say it's anecdotal all they want, but I got the experience with the system for a year and a half showing the data.
And you're talking about the hydrospace stuff. Right?
What's that?
You're talking about the hydrospace stuff?
Yeah. I mean,
I think there's definitely something to the bacterial dosing, and I think what you're doing is different than a product by Jimbo's Reef product. I cultured this in my bathtub, and here you go. I think there's different levels to it. Again, I'm totally happy for people like you to be doing stuff on the bleeding edge and reporting it, and I think it's important and good. It's no, I don't care anymore what other people do. I don't care if they spend all their money on bottled bathtub stuff and they kill their tank or don't kill their tank. It's up to them.
Yeah.
I shouldn't get in the way of people experimenting who are doing good experiments.
Try.
How are your acanthos?
The babies?
Nice.
They look like
they're about
skulls.
How many months?
No, they're what is it?
It'll be about 16, 18 months.
Are they 2 years old?
Almost 2.
Wow.
I think they'll be 2 in January, right?
Wait a minute.
That makes sense.
Yeah, they'll be 2 in January.
Yeah, 2 in January.
They'll be 2 in January. So they're big enough to sell. I mean, I moved them from the spawning system out into one of the main farm systems, and they're much happier.
I want one.
There's only 2 of them. I only have two alive, but the one is like bright red orange with these beautiful white stripes and a yellow ring going around the center of it. The other one is green and purple. They're good. I just wish I had more time to focus on doing it. I'd love to do it again, but I just don't have the time to do it. 2 babies, yeah. We had 13 or 14 that settled, but we also had they were in and I don't think I even really broadcast this around to everybody here. We had a major spawning in the end of January of that year. That it was a 150-gallon system with 100 adult acanthos in it, and I put in a beginning that was like 60, and we had the spawn, we had the settlement. And my suppliers in Indonesia were so excited, they sent me all the rainbows, on the next shipment. And I had 100 rainbow acanthophilias in 150 gallons of water. We thought spawning was over. Well, we thought wrong. Spawning was the biggest spawning event that happened for us, happened after the full moon in January. Well, that spawn was so significant that we weren't thinking about it. I didn't have the ORP alarm set on that apex for that system, which is about the stupidest thing you could have done, was not set the ORP alarm. And I normally go in on Saturdays. The full moon, well, the 14th day after full moon was on a Friday night. Well, we were there, didn't really pay attention to what was possibly going on in the system. Well, they must have all gone off, because when we went in the next day at like 3 p.m, the entire system was so white you couldn't even see the corals in the tank. And we wiped out almost 100 acanthophilias, and all the babies, we had just a handful survive, and then they were just hanging on for dear life for a while, and we ended up with 2. So lesson learned, don't ever do something stupid like that. Don't ever put 100 acanthophilias in 150 gallons of water if you're trying to spawn them and you're not going to be there to watch it.
So was it just too much sploot and all that good stuff that just take your ORP? Or?
Dude, they're hermaphrodites. So they pulse 5 to 7 times. They just spew huge clouds of sperm out. So when we had the spawn happen, the tank was pretty cloudy with just a handful that spawned. So they spew out, they pulse like 5 to 7 times of sperm, and then 3 to 5 minutes later, they'll start pulsing 5 to 7 more times each one to release their eggs. So they release the sperm to colonize, to get all throughout the water column, and then they released all their eggs at the same time then as well. And I don't know how many actually went off on that spawning event that we weren't there for, but it was so significant that it looked like milk. The water, I did 3 100% water changes, and I still could barely see the corals in the tank. And we just started moving them out to our main coral systems, and I barely had enough room to put them because we had just gotten a shipment in on that Thursday and didn't even sell a single coral out of it. So we are stacking corals on top of each other, and they were spawning as we were walking out. I guess they were at that point stress spawning because it was the next day, hours before sunset, and they were the water quality had gotten so bad. The ORP was down to like 50.
In the science, we call those kind of corals bukkake spawners.
Well,
no, that's not true.
I tell you what, the amount of sperm that comes out of these things will blow your mind. I mean, These things are damn.
The one silver lining is they all got to die in an orgy.
They did. They did.
That's right.
I mean, if you're gonna go,
poor kid.
If you're gonna go,
the poor kid died during the orgy, and they didn't even know what was going on.
Right. So when Rich said something like when we were talking about questions, and he was saying he was going to ask that question about what's the role of scientific literature guiding the hobbyist, I said, well, on the flip side, what is the role? Is there any role in what we've learned in the hobbyist world to then guide scientific exploration and publication?
Yeah.
So, is there something for science to learn from what we're doing? Because, quite frankly, most hobbyists and aquaculture facilities are doing a better job at understanding what corals actually need to live than PhDs who go out in the field and are taking measurements and testing hypotheses.
Yeah, this has been going on forever in the hobby. And the question is, how do we get science to listen to hobbyists, right? And I think the main problem is, one of the main problems that I think exists for the hobby in general is there's no centralized body. So the problem with people in science and the people in public aquariums dealing with hobbyists is every hobbyist walks in and goes, you need a vortex, just run carbon. Why aren't you doing halite? Ooh. Whatever their pet thing is at the time.
But they are.
Right? Whatever their pet thing is. So science and public aquarists get inundated with bullshit all the time, and it's very difficult for stuff to get through that. Now, when we had Advanced Aquarist, and Coral Magazine is still doing it for the time, almost every public aquarium, gets Coral Magazine. All the public aquarists were reading Advanced Aquarist when it was happening. So they are paying attention. Science is a little more siloed, but they're listening. And one of the things, some of what they're listening to is like, and I'm sure there were people before that, but people like me and Wandell, who went from hobby into the public aquarium world and then did papers about stuff, they have to listen to us then. So I think maybe, one of the goals of Reef Retreat is kind of to bridge that gap. I know Salem talks about bridging that gap, but that I think it's a difficult gap to bridge simply because there are so many hobbyists who don't know what they're doing, who want to tell other people what to do, that a lot of people in academia have to go, I can't listen to you. In octopuses, it's even worse, right? With cephalopods, because 98% of what cephalopod researchers get is they're so smart you shouldn't do anything to them, and it's like, well, that's not really helpful. We can't listen to you, and breaking through that wall is hard.
I can understand. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead. It's okay.
No, you go ahead.
I can understand where you're saying, having a bunch of different hobbyists coming in, but if they would actually listen to people that actually do it as a profession for a living and not just hobbyists. I'm a hobbyist at heart, but it's a big hobby for me. I turned it into my livelihood.
Thanks.
And I feel like all the experience that I have, I might not be right about everything, and it might only work for me in certain applications, but there's a lot of data that I can provide. And honestly, without my credentials, I get laughed at. And it's a joke to me because I can see it with my own eyes right there in my systems every single day, all the things that we do, and people don't want to listen to what I have to say, which is fine. They can listen to whoever they want to, but I wouldn't preach about it if I didn't think that it worked because of the experience that I have in doing it. So listening to every hobbyist, I get it. That's just a pain in the rear end, just listening to everybody and all the difference of opinions. But having someone with the success that we've had for all the years that we've had it, I think we have a little bit of clout. And
but people are listening to you though, right? Carrie pays attention to what you're...
Agreed.
Yeah.
But they listen, but is it adopted? Is there, because there needs to be, I guess, more research done on it, I guess, because I haven't done the research properly, according to science.
So first is a joke, which is I have found the way to do this is not the direct way after my experience at Reef Retreat. That didn't work.
You mean saying you fuckers don't know what you're doing?
Yeah. So we definitely can't do that. That's not going to do anything good. But the second thing is since then I have taken on a more passive approach. And what I have found is there's many regulations which prevent change of husbandry tactics that are in place at the federal and state level of many of these conservation programs, for instance. So what is needed to change those policies is a lot of internal votes in a kind of democratic system, as well as convincing enough data. So I think that community science is the way. So I think you're right, Chris, that while what you have is a good pilot study, it is not at the level at which it can influence government policy. So what we have to do is take cash from the industry or wherever and actually have community approaches with Aquarius, test ideas, but it has to be statistically significant, and that's to actually influence those things. So even if Carrie agrees, or every single person agrees it's keeping Acroporus cervicornis, just because they do doesn't mean they have the levers of power to actually change things. And that's what sucks. It's bureaucracy.
That's the problem, is you have bureaucrats telling you what you can and can't do when you have somebody with experience, but maybe they should be putting a little money aside to do it. So is science really science, or is it bought and paid for? And that's the problem that I have sometimes when I hear
it's all just siloed, right? So they don't really have, it's not like they're doing research. The Florida Reef Tract Restoration Program is just keeping the animals. Then they look to individual universities, things like that are doing the research. So like Rich said, I think there's no organized structure to bring all these people together to do a centralized project. And maybe that's something that can happen with enough connections and enough conversations, hopefully.
I mean, it's
money.
Science is hard, and science costs money.
Of course.
And you can kind of look at it like, how do you decide who you listen to in the hobby, right? There's people you listen to and people you don't listen to and people you ignore because you don't know anything about them. And academia's got the same problem. How do they know who to listen to? Because nothing is written up. Not much. Some is, and it's better than it was 15 years ago. But it's a slow process, and it's hard to write it up. It's not necessarily hard, but it does take effort to write up stuff in a way that they can understand and will get through the noise. I think it's the same problem we have knowing who to listen to about the concoction.
I agree with you that it takes time. So. But according to science today, we don't have time, right? It's going to be gone in 20 years, the reefs, according to science.
Some species, yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing is if we have to go through all these steps, and I don't have time to go through that in my facility. I go on a whim and I make a decision and I do what I do. And if I fail miserably. If I succeed, it's great data. But again, it's just data for me.
Well, but also I think a lot of science is not interested in how to keep corals alive in tanks. You know, what's happening at Ames is fucking unbelievable what they're doing at Ames. The amount of money that's been poured into coral research at Ames and what they're doing is on a scale that's unimaginable. I still can't even believe what's happening there. And they're doing really, really good, impactful work. And they are not trying to keep stuff alive long-term in the tank. That's not their goal. So I think that's our goal. And, you know, I would love there to be a centralized body that coordinates research and coordinates information and puts it all together in a place where it's easily accessible and readable, and it's a little bit vetted by some people who know some stuff. So it's get-atable, and we could build on itself. You know, get Sandler to give $1 million to us, and we'll start the five of us will start a foundation right now. And we'll get
already do it.
Can it be called Five Guys?
Five guys. Five guys, one coral.
Yeah, 5 guys, one coral. Yeah.
5 guys, 1 pagoda cut.
Yeah.
So,
John, I got another question for you. So, you know, the comment about how we don't have time, and I think we're all kind of like in denial a little bit. The science is pretty clear. The coral reefs are going to be gone in our lifetimes, or at least the way we understand them to be. They will be significantly different. You know, maybe monocultures out in the ocean, lots of algae and many fish. Maybe some corals will survive, but most will not. And maybe things will surprise us for the better, but the most likely scenario is during the lifetime of the people in this room and online here, coral reefs will be something that we can tell our kids and grandkids used to be out there, it used to be so amazing, and now it can only be seen in a tank someplace. And I'm wondering, what does that do to the hobby? Like, how does it change when we are keeping extinct species? They're only, what?
Potentially.
Yeah, well, right. So when we're keeping species that only exist in tanks anymore, as far as we know. In ecosystems that only exist in tanks, what does that mean for the hobby? Like, how does that change the hobby? Does it change the hobby? Does it make it a bigger hobby? Does it make it a smaller hobby? Does it make it a weird hobby?
So I have 5 minutes left, so if I can take this, and I'll after that.
go, baby.
Here's my nihilistic answer, which is, I think it makes it not a hobby. I think it becomes regulated and illegal because those are now endangered species, and I think it goes away. That's what I think happens.
It's gone.
Yeah, we don't have Atlantic corals in the hobby for that reason.
Yes.
And I also think that we humans think we know more than what we know, and I think that 4.5 billion years of evolution is going to dictate what really happens, no matter what we think we know about what's happening to this planet. And I don't think we'll see the destruction of the coral reefs and the degradation to where they're gone completely. I think we'll be kicked off the planet a lot sooner.
Salem, you gotta jump.
I do have to jump. Thank you, guys. Thanks. I'm sorry.
See you, Salem.
This was fun, though. I like this format, too. This is great. Be good.
I got to jump like in 5 minutes, too.
Yeah, I got to get the little man to bed, so.
Yeah, we could all jump. Well, see you later, Salem.
See you, Salem.
Jump.